We'll go ahead and do some, thanks Rachel, some brief introductions before we get started with our bargaining session. My name is Amanda Markey. For those of you who I haven't met, I am your current chief bargainer for UFGAU. And we have Rachel Harnett here, who is our co-president, and Sikander Kher, who is on the bargaining team for UFGAU. Did the UF admin team want to do a quick introduction?
Sure, I'm Tom Kelleher, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs.
This is Brooke Mercier, UF Human Resources. I'm remote right now, so I'm sorry I'm leaving my camera off for now.
I'm Ryan Fuller in the General Counsel's office. Nice to be here. Judy.
Hi, I'm Judy Travis. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Affairs in the Graduate School.
Perfect. So I think that should be everyone. So for those of you who are joining us for today's Article 8 bargaining session and who weren't here last time, we, UFGAU, proposed our Article 8 reopening last session. During this session, we wanted to highlight that our current proposal as it stands in our CBA shows that UF, as one of the top 5 universities, is the only university that pays only 1 week paid leave following the birth of a child, surrogacy of a child, adoption of a child, or paid medical leave. It's the only university within the top 5 that is offering this low amount for GAs who are parents. And we're asking for what the UF bargaining team successfully was able to collectively bargain during their sessions from 2019 to currently. Our other competitors in the top 5 universities all offer a minimum of 6 weeks paid leave. Having only 1 week of paid leave has negatively impacted GAs financially, mentally, emotionally, during their transition into parenthood. So right now, our current proposal, again, is just asking for what the faculty union UF had openly received. UF also voluntarily and openly extended this invitation to all members of UF staff on top of what was already bargained for the UF faculty. And today we're going to hear from the UF administrative bargaining team of what their counterproposal to our proposal is.
Well, I don't know that I actually have a counter proposal today, but I can tell you that we are working on it. I appreciate your patience. That it waited a while to hear back from us. There's a lot of different issues that we're having to run down. I can tell you that from across the campus, across the university, from senior leadership down to the college and department, everybody supports the proposal and wants to find a way to make it happen. And so what it really comes down to is us.
Ryan, can I stop you just for a second?
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. And it sounds just kind of like you're muffled.
How's that? Better?
Much better. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Sometimes when I'm Zoom from home or something, I use a different microphone. And sorry. So anyways, I'll just repeat the most important part of what I said. Everybody from senior leadership down to the colleges, the grad school, the departments all want to do this. It's just about finding out to make sure that we can do it and that any unforeseen consequences are addressed sort of from a variety of standpoints. And it's everything. It's from making sure there's appropriate coverage for the departments. If somebody needs to go out, it's any potential visa issues that we need to make sure this doesn't impact our foreign national graduate students in a negative way, to sort of any tax consequences that we might have to think through, to making sure that we don't do anything in this realm that would jeopardize anybody's academic status, and that they truly are kept separate. And I don't know, Brooke, if I'm missing, or Tom, if I'm missing anything, but those are just the issues that I think that come to mind to me that we have been tackling and getting to the bottom of. The good news is that it doesn't seem like, at least so far, any of those things will stop us from being able to go forward. I think there's just a couple of additional things we need to make sure that we can do, and that they're not going to be a consequence. I think what we're likely to do is come back with a proposal that we'd like to call sort of a pilot program that we would have in place for the remainder of this contract, just in case we get into it and something that we didn't anticipate or you didn't anticipate happens that we need to sort of adjust to after 2 years of trying out the program. I guess the other thing we've been trying to do is estimate the potential use of this so that the costs, we could get costs, which is you know, there's a variety of issues there. How do you estimate who would be using this? How do you estimate the fact that probably more people would use it, as you would expect, if it's available and if it's paid? So we're also trying to get an estimate of what this is going to be, you know, like from that perspective. And we did do some homework on what other universities are doing, both at our peer level in the state and at those places. And we think again, we'd like the deal to agree to this proposal. We do think in a lot of ways it would put the University of Florida at somewhat the forefront of where how GAs are treated in leave space. So that being said, we haven't had probably the one or two final conversations we need to have, but we did want to give you an update on having those conversations. We did want to give you an update on the fact that we would probably are going to ask that if we do something, it would be sort of a pilot program with the hopes that, you know, it would be successful and we wouldn't have to change it in any way, or, you know, at least not in any negative way. And that pilot program, we think, would just run through the remainder of this contract, which, you know, we would just be back bargaining the whole contract anyways. So that's kind of where we are. Brooke or Tom, am I missing anything? Any other issues or any other sort of complications any other questions that we had for them that we thought we needed to make sure we got the GA's perspectives on things before we made some final decisions and had some final conversations?
This is Brooke. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little quiet, Brooke. You're a little quiet, Brooke.
Okay, sorry, I'm driving. I apologize for that, but I will say that there are a number of variables, and I don't think any of those are insurmountable. As Ryan mentioned, there's support by the administration, by UFHR, and the other groups that Ryan mentioned to work through this, work through the variables that are there, so that we can extend this benefit in a proposal. And I think there is support. So I hope you recognize that in good faith, that we are definitely having lots of conversations about this, and have had a number of conversations with key individuals.
I had a quick question regarding the use of pilot program. So
Sure.
Is this essentially saying that this would be a one-time for the remainder of this contract and not be ratified further into our CBA, or like, is it just for the remainder of this 22 to 23 academic year, and then we wouldn't have it for 23 to 24?
Well, I can't remember the exact dates of the contract. I guess the way to think of, well, the way we refer to a pilot program is, you know, we'll agree to do this and we'll set some specific dates on committing to it, with the idea that there will be a reopener to talk about it, you know, again, for us to sort of bargain it in case something goes wrong. Again, it's making the first, you know, making it the pilot program for the rest of this contract doesn't really change the reality that everything opens for bargaining, you know, at the end of the contract anyways. It's really just sort of more to set maybe expectations that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how much use it's going to get. We don't know how expensive it'll be. And so we can, when we come back to you guys, and if there is a problem, we don't completely take you off guard that, hey, we agreed to this without any sort of warning that we are struggling to predict the total, the complete sort of cost of it. So I don't think practically it has any impact on where we will be at the end of this contract, because again, everything will be open for bargaining. But I do want to, you know, make sure that we're transparent and that we don't know. I feel like I don't know, everybody was around when we first did Gator Grad Care, and we agreed to some things that ended up being sort of unexpectedly expensive. And I think we learned our lesson there, just to give you a heads up that, you know, that we might run into things we weren't expecting. And it's really just to be transparent, set expectations.
Okay, understood. Yeah.
With the hope that, you know, it goes great. I mean, you know, we didn't announce the other one as sort of a, you know, a pilot program, but it was, and that we probably should have done that. And it's worked out fine. We don't have any change. We don't have any intent to shrink or to modify the, again, for the negative for the faculty or staff. So we'd expect this to happen the same way, but given that it's never been done before, you know, it's the same thing we would have done had we implemented PTO. Just sort of, it's an unknown. So,
Brian, if I could just give an illustration of that. I'm sorry, Amanda, I didn't mean to interrupt. you mind if I just give an illustration?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, as an illustration, leaves of absence have been generally tracked on a decentralized basis. So the data out there to be able to say what the practices have been, and then if we were to estimate what that would look like, the numbers are a little hard to get at, just because departments and individual PIs work out the arrangements. And so it may not always be something that is tracked formally now. And so we're intending to overestimate what that might look like as far as utilization, so that we can try to get a good cost estimate. And that's part of what we're working through now. Again, it's not because we don't support the concept, it's just that we're trying to do our due diligence in that regard. So that's one example of what we're working on.
No, that makes sense. And again, we do appreciate it. We definitely don't want to put in something that is insolvent, that doesn't end up, lasting long term. I had a couple of questions about ways that we could perhaps estimate or approximate this. So my first was actually going to be leaves of absence, though of course, again, that's probably a lower percentage than would be utilized for, because it's 6 weeks unpaid up to a year unpaid.
Before we get to that, I have a couple questions about just what they just said. So just to clarify, the faculty paid leave is also a pilot program?
I think we considered it, again, whether we did a good job of communicating or not, I don't know, but we have considered it in the past to be a bit of a pilot program. But now I think we have settled in and decided that it passed the pilot program, and it's something that we expect to, just exist indefinitely.
So, I mean, in their contract, was there a language, to that effect about it?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. I could look, but I don't know.
Okay. Also, you mentioned some you need to figure out like visa and tax issues. I mean, how is that dealt with for the faculty?
I think the visas that faculty are on are different than the visas that our students are on. So it was not the same issue that we were facing with them. And then the tax issues were also a little different if you are part-time and fall sort of into the same sort of, it's a different sort of tax analysis for GAs than it is for full-time faculty. Without getting into all the details, there are a couple of minor differences. So, and again, we're not intending to hold us up. It's just been that, and they frankly, both of those issues surprised us when we started talking to the offices about what obstacles or what things do we need to make sure we're overcoming here. Those were two things that were identified. But in the end, I don't think either of them will, in fact, I know the visa issue won't. We've settled on that, it's fine. And the tax issue also seems to be fine. I was just giving you I didn't want you to just think we were sitting around doing nothing. So I was just giving you of the conversations we had without wanting to scare you into thinking they would stop us from doing this. They won't. Those two won't. As far as we're concerned, so far we haven't found anything that will. It's just making sure we get the right pieces in place to deal with them.
Another
issue.
And
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say another issue related to those two that Ryan mentioned were state funded versus grant funded positions. We don't think that's an obstacle either. So those are
right,
just
but we needed to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And also one more question about, so I mean, given that this article is reopened every year and the CBA is opened every 3 years, I mean, why is the language of a pilot program necessary? Wouldn't any unforeseen kind of things that come up be discussed in the following bargaining session?
Yeah, I don't think I'm wedded to the idea that we have to explicitly state in the CBA that this is a pilot program. If that's not something, that bothers you guys, but I do want, through our bargaining sessions, again, be just very transparent that we don't know where this is going. And if I just came to you and said, this looks great, no problem, we're doing it, and then 2 years from now said, oh, I'm sorry, we have to modify this a little bit here or there, you guys be taken off guard. I don't want that to happen. So whether it goes in the contract or not, I don't think is that big a deal. I just don't want you or your members to, you know, be surprised if we come back at the bargaining session and say, you know, this piece of it ended up being a little too expensive. So
Well,
that's
right.
fine, but I think we would be a little uncomfortable with that language, right? I mean, I hope I'm not speaking.
Yeah. Well, and also Ryan, I just want to say, like, I can't remember if you were present for any of the Gator Grad Care bargaining. I know that I think Bill Cannellan was still chief bargainer at the time. But we worked very hard with Dr. Sumfest to get a plan that would keep Gator Grad Care solvent and satisfy both sides. So, you know, we are very aware that these programs benefit us and that we need to keep them financially stable as well. So, you know, if an unexpected cost did come in, we would be more than happy to figure out a system that worked.
Yeah. No, I know I wasn't part of the bargaining, but Bill reported back that you guys understood and worked very hard to find a solution to a problem that neither party expected. So that's fine. I'm, you know, again, I haven't consulted with my team, but I get the apprehension around the explicit terms in the contract. I'm looking, I don't think it's in here, but of a pilot program. I think we have used that on another program. Bill would remember, I can't, for the faculty. I think it might have been around like term professorships or something like that. So we have used it explicitly, but I understand. It's really more about setting expectations and communicating with you all.
Understood.
Yeah, I also wanted to quickly address in like the list of concerns that you were just discussing about Article 8 regarding credit hour association and anything to do with some of the credit hour and tuition waiver concerns. We just wanted to again reiterate for everybody here who wasn't here last session that we are explicitly bargaining for GAs in the context of them as university employees as opposed to as their student leave.
Right.
Some during our research when editing Article 8, we did find that some institutions had articles or had motions in place in their contract involving both their capacity as a student and as an employee. But for the purpose of Article 8, we are only talking about students in their capacity as employees. So any leave of absence for school-related or credit hour-related, anything relating to those two things would go specifically through their graduate departments on a case-by-case basis.
And that may be one thing we do propose, additional language to your proposal that makes it clear that this leave is related to your employment status as a GA, and any academic status would need to be worked out strictly, from a different perspective. We can think about the language. I don't typically like doing that because we don't even want to mention student status in the CBA as little as possible, because we do want to make sure they are separate. But in this case, I could see it getting confusing for both our administrators and potentially some of your members, what it means to take leave from an academic perspective. And I'd rather just make it clear that this only addresses the employment perspective.
Ryan, I think that's good, but we do processing with departments, some medical leave right now. Some people take medical leave just from their employment, but keep their academics. And some of the benefits of that is the tuition waiver. So I think curating the special language would be necessary. So I'd like to suggest that happen.
Yeah, we agree. Nobody wants to lose their tuition waiver.
Yeah, we talked to Tom and Nicole Stedman about that, and thought the whole waiver thing and making sure you don't lose the waiver and it was important.
Sure.
And so it would be a short sentence, but I think something that I think both parties.
It's definitely key. Yeah, it's definitely specific to the situation. Not many do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like I said, we, as Amanda mentioned, we pulled a lot from faculty and staff who didn't have this concern, the joys of drafting our first proposal. But yeah, again, just other ways that we might be able to approximate, Riley, who is a member of our organizing committee, has suggested potentially looking at other campuses with similar GA populations for utilization numbers. Again, there's going to be, differences inevitably in that, looking at the leaves of absences, but also, again, getting perhaps a Gator Grad Care rep, which we previously talked about, to look not only at like maternity care that has been provided, but potentially also hospitalizations, which could give us an idea of those emergency medical that might cause paid medical leave in this case. So again, we'd be open to having a Gator forgive me, it is 3 o'clock on a Friday. To having a Gator grad care rep here, if that would benefit you, or perhaps an individual consultation with Gator grad care.
Okay, that's good. I think we can also just pull some anonymous data as well. So I think Brooke and I have talked about that. Again, no matter whatever number I think we get, we're always going to overestimate, given that we expect that and would want people to take advantage of a benefit.
Yeah, I do also just want to say that there's about 4,400 GAs, and between faculty and staff, there are about 1,500. So I still imagine our numbers would be much lower than that.
That and generally your age group is less prone to illnesses. That's just the nature of health and insurance. So yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, unfortunately, we don't have much more to report back than that. I would like to be able to give you an ETA when we will have a proposal. Let me take a quick look here. I'm Brooke, if we have our final conversations with, to make sure that there's nothing we're missing next week, what do you think about getting our proposal back to them, or a response back to them, like the week of the 3rd? Do you think that's doable, or how many conversations do you think are still remaining on our agenda here to make sure we understand this?
I think that's probably reasonable. I think the point that was just made about some hospitalization rates and data from Gator grad care would be helpful. We have gathered some information about childbirth, which was insightful for us, and we think that's certainly a key benefit, and that there's it's certainly something that could be included. Doesn't appear to be an obstacle there. I will say one of the things that we're trying to understand in the faculty definition, it requires the condition to be FMLA qualifying, which is a threshold for eligibility. And so presently there's not really a review process for that for grad assistants. So we're just thinking about how that would be incorporated into the program, so that the access for this for people that need that benefit, because in some instances, if someone is in a scenario where they would be having an FMLA qualifying condition, how would that impact their student status potentially in terms of, in extreme cases, withdrawal or other, impact to the student side that then indirectly would impact the grad assistant's appointment as an employee. So there's some things we need to look at there. I think 2 weeks out is probably reasonable, but we've got some homework still to do yet.
Sure. I just did want to mention also, it seems like of the list of concerns that you guys seem pretty confident that most of them are not going to hold us up. We are hoping to have this Article 8 wrapped up by mid-October, by the 2nd week, so we can open Article 10 around that same time. Ideally, this one will be there seems to be a few answers that you guys need to follow up on, but we are planning on opening Article 10, either the week of the 3rd or the week of the 10th.
Yeah.
And Rachel, sorry to interrupt, Ryan. Isn't there already motions in place for FMLA leave for graduate assistants?
There is. Sorry, let me find this. Like that's the thing. I thought, so it's a leave of absence, but I thought that it still had to qualify through FMLA, which maybe I'm incorrect about that.
The process that I'm aware of for students to take unpaid leave for, multiple weeks is they go through their department. The department has a letter from UFHR that the student states the beginning date and end date. It is the department's approval process.
Okay.
And then they work with UFHR operations to put that on a no pay kind of medical leave. I don't believe, Brooke, you can correct me, that there's an official medical certification. I don't believe the departments require documents or any of that. So I would assume that process is what Brooke was talking about, that it would probably then go to change that process to be more formal.
Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry. I posted this in the chat, and then but I only sent it to one person. Yeah, so that's the link there for GA's leave of absence. You're correct. I guess I thought that it still had to like qualify according to FMLA standards, but it doesn't state that. So I was mistaken in that. But again, I don't see a problem for a more formalized process. It would probably make a more streamlined process for HR. So
yeah, I think what we're also trying to emphasize here is we're hoping to standardize this the same way that faculty, staff, and now GAs will have this available leave option. And yeah, I know that UF has that FMLA qualifying requirement for their leave. So again, we're totally on the same page with that. Okay, so just to summarize regarding the timeline, Ryan, you said that hopefully you and Brooke and your team will be able to get the answers that you need the week of the 3rd, and you'll send us your kind of proposal around that time.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can actually have a bargaining session in the week of the 3rd and get our answers completed sometime week of the 26th or early of the week of the 3rd. So
sure. Did you want to put something on the books for the week of the 3rd just so that we have something?
I mean, I would like just to give some safety. The end of the week would be good.
Sure.
Friday, I guess, is homecoming, which I did not realize.
The whole university is closed, correct?
Yeah, it seems early. I don't know. How does the 6th look for everybody?
The 6th, I'm free before noon, and then again after 3.
We've got faculty senate steering at 3, but I'm free before 3.
So maybe the morning of the 6th. Does that work with anyone or everyone?
I'm wide open, so.
Yeah.
Sure.
Brooke, how does the morning of the 6th look for you? Are you able to look or are you driving?
Can you hear me okay? I'm sorry for the disruption. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, the 6th is not going to work for me. I apologize. I've got a retreat that day and there's some other meetings, so that day would not work.
Okay, what about the 5th? Is there any open times on the 5th for anybody?
The morning of the 5th works well for me.
Is it okay with everybody? I'm free on the morning of the 5th after 10:40 and then again before 2 p.m.
Yeah, like 11 works for me.
Yeah, 11.
11 works for me too. Yeah, 11's good for me.
All right.
11's good for me.
Let's do 11 on the 5th.
Okay.
I will send out a Zoom link shortly after this as well.
And we do appreciate, you know, the work that you all are putting into this. You know, we know this is not a simple issue, and we're heartened to hear that there's pretty wide felt support for this.
There's only been support for this.
No, it's great to hear.
Nobody's they've just, when we go to them, they're like, well, what about this, this, and this? And then we have to go chase down those answers. So nobody has a problem with it. They just want to make sure we know what we're getting ourselves into.
Yeah, and I also appreciate you're willing to work on this quickly. Like I became aware of this morning of a GA who's taking a unpaid leave because of a mental health issue. So we know that the longer it delays, the I'm trying to think of a way to say this. There are people who can't take advantage of this program until it's in place. So we do appreciate your haste on that as well.
Okay, I think that should be everything. Does anyone else have any questions before we close up and head to the debrief room? Okay, I'm going to call it there before anything pops in anyone else's head. Thank you all for meeting with us, and we'll see you again on the 5th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Take care, everyone.
Yes, give me 1 second. I will put the debrief link in here. Sorry,
You're good.
I gotta find it.
Yeah.
I gotta find it.
Are the debriefs also recorded or no?
No, they are not recorded because they are sorry. Here we go.
They're all good.
Here you go. Oh, I'm just gonna send that to you. Okay, there it is.
I will see you there.
Okay.
There we go.